Durant's all-time ranking if he wins a championship with the Houston Rockets. We're going to talk about that in this video. It's kind of interesting to talk about Kevin Durant and his career and stuff like that because a lot of people have mixed opinions on Kevin Durant and how they feel about, his rings with Golden State and his career since he's left OKC. A lot of people just have a lot of opinions, pretty much. And everyone's entitled to their opinions. That's not what I'm going to talk about here. I will say before I get into it, if you watch this page, you know I don't have a top 10 list all the time. The only thing I have solidified on a, quote-unquote top 10 list is that Michael Jordan is number 1 and that Steph Curry is top 4-ish all time for me, maybe top 3, top 5, like no less than 5, somewhere in the 3, 4, 5 range right now. And then if he wins another ring, we'll see what happens. Those are the only 2 players I have, locked in there. And then obviously LeBron is in the top 5 all time also. But I don't really have a specific number for LeBron or Steph Curry, although I don't know. I just go back and forth just to make a long story short. But Michael Jordan's number 1. That's the only solidified thing. I can move players around and I can talk about different players and I can have different opinions at different times. Just remember, a top 10 list is always subjective. So my opinion one day may change randomly. Players who are on top 10 lists, a lot of them are not active players. So if I ever sat down and made one, I could tell it to you guys, and then the next day I might be like, you know what? I feel like this player did something else and I moved them in a different position. My opinion is going to constantly change on that, which is why I don't like making top 10 lists. I just know obviously that Michael Jordan is in there, Steph Curry is in there, and LeBron is in there. So with that being said, that little soliloquy, let's talk about Kevin Durant. Because, like I said, his career has been polarizing for a lot of people. And I feel like when people talk about his all-time ranking, they don't really know where to put him because they, again, his Golden State rings, his career since Golden State, and then obviously, before that with OKC, people don't really even talk about those days, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Think about it for a second. Kevin Durant was in OKC for a decade, and he did incredible things there. He was the MVP. He was definitely a scoring leader there. I don't know how many times. 3 times maybe. I don't know if I made that up, but he was definitely a scoring leader and stuff like that. He averaged 30 points per game one season. Kevin Durant in OKC was a problem. He's still a problem now, and he's a 50, 40, 90 guy every day of the week. And we obviously know he's a super gifted scorer, so efficient, probably the most efficient, if not one of the most efficient players you will ever see. It's just so easy for him. And if he's open, and I've said this about Kevin Durant before, you can't say this about every player. I know it sounds crazy because you'd be like, oh, if the shot, if they have a wide open shot, they'll make it, right? Even wide open players miss. With Kevin Durant, I can't remember him missing a wide open shot. I mean wide open, not contested. Wide open, Kevin Durant doesn't miss that. So we know his talent, his skill, everything that he brings to the table. He was an underrated, defender in his career, I feel like. I feel like he was a really good defender. He was never, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, but he was a good defender, and he has obviously the length and stuff like that to be a good defender. So with that being said, his career in OKC was literally a whole career. Think about it for a second. Again, he spent basically a decade in OKC. That's longer than NBA players' careers, some of them. He literally had multiple careers, and one of them was just OKC, and nobody talks about that. Or not many people talk about that. People just talk about what he's doing now, and his current, obviously now he's in Houston and stuff like that. So I feel like when you talk about Kevin Durant's all-time rankings, I feel like you have to include the OKC days. I feel like people just want to forget it because once he left OKC, he became very polarizing and a lot of people didn't like him after that. And so they kind of just take that away from him. he still did what he did in OKC, regardless of, what people think. He was still that guy in OKC. So with that being said, obviously outside of that, he goes to Golden State. He wins 2 rings. He's finals MVP in both of those, championship runs. And, getting a ring is one of the biggest accomplishments of being an NBA player. He leaves Golden State. He goes to Brooklyn. Doesn't work out there. He goes to Phoenix. Doesn't work out there. And then obviously now he's with the Rockets. So this Rockets team, when they traded for Kevin Durant, actually before they traded for Kevin Durant, I was saying, I feel like the perfect player for them to add would be a Kevin Durant or a Devin Booker. One, because I thought it made sense because they had Phoenix picks. So I felt like they had the most leverage with the Suns because the Phoenix Suns want their picks back just in case they're not very good. They want to be able to, use their picks. So that was one thing. Like I said back then, although now it's a little different with Kevin Durant, I said I was not buying the Giannis to Houston rumors. I'll buy it a little bit now just because Kevin Durant's there. But I wasn't buying Giannis to Houston because I'm like, they literally have like 7 athletic wings. Like, sure, Giannis is better than all of them, of course, at this point in their career. But like, it doesn't solve their problem. They needed shooting, scoring like a Kevin Durant. But that being said, once they traded for KD, obviously I felt like that was the right player to trade for. But my concern was going into free agency and stuff like that is that I wasn't sure if they're still a championship contender. And what I mean by that is like, of course, by adding Kevin Durant, you have a good shot to contend for a championship, generally speaking. But what I meant was like, I don't know if they're my favorites to come out of the West or anything like that because I felt like the team was still too young. They didn't have enough, veteran role players and stuff like that. Because the guys you would be relying on outside of Kevin Durant was going to be Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith, all these players who are like 21 years old, who have no playoff experience, and we don't know what's going to happen as you go deeper in the playoffs. You saw with OKC this year, that was my concern with OKC. They were just able to overcome it because they were just so good as a team. But there were times and games where they just looked inexperienced. And that is why they had some struggles in the playoffs because they literally worked through some of their inexperience in real time. We watched it. And so that was my concern with OKC on potentially not winning a ring. So with Houston, it was the same concern. I'm like, what's going to happen when they get deeper in the playoffs? And they got to rely on these guys who, of course, could turn into Jalen Williams in the finals and drop 40, but we don't know. And I feel like with Kevin Durant, he only has a finite amount of time to win a ring. And you can't just like take a chance if those guys are going to be ready or not. I don't think it's fair on a 21-year-old to be like, you have to be ready to be, in the NBA finals. Like they haven't been there. So like, it's not fair for anybody. So when they picked up Dorian Finney-Smith and Clint Capella and all this kind of stuff, I was like, okay, now I'm liking that their chances a lot better and their roster a lot better because now I know, even though Şengün is obviously going to be the second option, to Kevin Durant and stuff like that scoring-wise. Although you could say Şengün might be the first option, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they are the top 2 scoring options, right? But now that they have Dorian Finney-Smith, who can be a 3-and-D guy, knock down key shots, he'll, do his thing and show up. He has experience. He'll play defense. He knows how to play defense against some of the best, players in the NBA, and he knows the tactics and all that kind of stuff. So then I was liking their roster a lot better because now they got some of the experience that I feel like they really needed. Okay, so now fast forward to the intro of this video where it's like, if Kevin Durant wins a ring with the Rockets, where does he rank all time? And again, if you were here at the start of the live stream, I don't have a solidified top 10 list. I don't because I just don't know where I rank everybody. The only players, again, that I know are in the list, Michael Jordan's 1. That is the only 100% solidified. He is 1. Steph Curry and LeBron are both top 5, somewhere in there. But outside of that, I don't have a list. So because of that, I don't know where I'd rank, Kevin Durant all time if he won a ring because I don't even know who's in my top 10. But if he is the leading catalyst for Houston to win a championship, because you have to think about it. They traded for him to be the guy that puts them over the edge to win the championship. This is a team who, a lot of people talk down on KD going to Golden State. I'm not going to talk down on him for going to Golden State. I don't think, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm not going to do that. But the thing that people said about Golden State is, oh, they were already 73-19. They already went to the finals. Well, this Rockets team just got knocked out in the first round. They were not that close to going to the finals or anything like that. And now, if Kevin Durant is the reason, obviously not the only reason, but like the piece, the trade that they made, he would be, in a sense, like Boston Celtics trading for Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, put them over the edge, even though Jason Tatum was the best player, or Jaylen Brown, regardless of which one you think it is. Drew Holiday was the piece that put them over the edge. Now, Kevin Durant obviously would be their best or second best player, again, depending on how Şengün does this year. But if he is the guy who gets them to the championship and wins the championship and he wins finals MVP, where are you going to rank him all time? Because again, I feel like people look at Kevin Durant's career and they don't know where to rank him because he gets discredited for certain things that he's done. And again, everyone's tied to their opinion. And like, I'm not going to discredit him for his rings with Golden State. I don't believe in that. But like, if you want to discredit him for it, like that's, you're entitled to do so. But it's like, if we put the whole career together, everything he's done since he came in the league, like I don't think he's ever averaged under 20 points per game. And I think that was only his rookie season. Like I think since his rookie season, he's never averaged less than 25, which is insane. And he came off an Achilles injury and looked better. He came off an Achilles injury and looked better than he did before the Achilles injury. Does that sound like crazy or what? And he did. Like, he really did look better after his Achilles injury. Obviously, he's not going to be as explosive and athletic, but he didn't rely on athleticism, so you couldn't tell that he wasn't as athletic. He seemed more polished. Like, once he came back, which is also crazy because he was already as efficient as it could be, as you thought he could be. It seems like he got more efficient. I don't know if the numbers say that, but that's what it seemed like. So that being said, Kevin Durant is like everything he's done, like, I don't know. I just don't know where I would rank him either. So I understand why people are confused on where to rank him, but I feel like you got to give him some consideration somewhere. I don't know if it's in the top 10. Maybe it's top 15, top 20. Again, I don't have a top 10 list, so I can't tell you where he ranks because I don't have a list. What I'm saying is, like, you got to consider him somewhere in some kind of all-time ranking. I feel like, again, I don't have any kind of list, so I feel like I'm like, he should be top 30, right? He should be top 20, right? I don't know, because I don't even know what a list is, but like, I feel like if he wins a championship, especially with Houston, I feel like people will change their opinion. Some people will change their opinion on where they rank him all time, depending on how the season goes. And if he's the catalyst of them winning a championship, I feel like people will be like, he did it without Steph Curry. That's kind of the narrative around him. I'm not putting that narrative on him. I am not saying Kevin Durant, the Steph Curry narrative. I don't have a narrative for him. I'm just saying that is what people's narrative is that he can't win without Steph Curry. So if he did that, then he would be able to get rid of that narrative that some people, give him. Shout out to Steph Curry, though, because Steph Curry is an all-time great. But I'm just saying, like, people give him that narrative. So if he wins with the Rockets, you guys can tell me in the comments down below where you rank him all time, because I'm sure you guys have top 10, top 20 lists. I'm sure you guys make them. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll make one, but I feel like it's also unfair to make a top 10 list. And the reason is, number one, it's always subjective. Everybody's list is going to be different. So no one's list is right or wrong. Now, obviously, there are levels to it, but like no one's list is right or wrong. So it's always going to be subjective. But the second thing is that I am not, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I am not 65 years old or 85 years old or something like that. Shout out to the older people, you know. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with older people. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is like, I am a younger person, right? And so I didn't get to watch some of these players play back in the day. I didn't get to watch Magic Johnson and all these guys, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't around. So it's hard to rank those guys all the time when I didn't get to see them. You know, with Michael Jordan, I wasn't really around to watch him play either. But I've done enough research on Michael Jordan and stuff like that, where I feel comfortable, you know, putting him first all time and stuff like that. It's not that I haven't done research on Magic or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, like, guys like Kareem and, you know, Bill Russell, rest in peace, and you know, Wilt Chamberlain, like, I wasn't around to watch those guys play. So when you don't get to see someone play live, it's completely different, because there is a thing such as, you know, people like to say the eye test thing. And if I didn't get to eye test, you know, these players and stuff like that, you can watch anybody's highlights and be like, oh yeah, they look really, really good. Like, we have facts and statistics, you know, championships, MVPs, those kind of things. But like, if I didn't get to watch some of these guys play, it's hard for me to rank them all time because I didn't see them. So that's my point. I felt so bad when I was like, I am not 65. I wasn't trying to call out older people. I was just like making a point that like I didn't get to watch these guys play. So that's why I don't really have a top 10 all-time list. Somebody said, I'm 31, so I missed the 90s era too. LOL, so Kobe's my GOAT. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, people who grew up in certain eras got to watch certain players play that, you know, we didn't get to watch play. You know, some of you guys who are watching this, or, you know, people back in the day, you know, watching in the 70s and 60s and 80s and stuff like that, you know, we tend to be a little bit more biased towards the people we watch play because we got to experience it live and see, you know, what they did in those biggest moments, and we have the experience. Like, experience matters. And that's kind of what creates the opinions and subjectivity. Because you're like, I watched, just to, you know, do your Kobe reference, because you said Kobe's your GOAT. You probably watched Kobe, and you watched Kobe hit the game-winning shot, whatever it was, and you were like, it was the best moment of your life. Okay, I'm exaggerating there, but you were watching it, you know, with your friends, and it was just like a memory, a moment for you. But like, other people didn't watch Kobe play, and it's not a memory or moment for them. So like, yeah, Kobe did this, but he didn't do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's different when you watch them play. So that's my opinion on that. Someone said, I saw him score 81 and it was over. I guess that's the same person. So I'm saying, like, yeah, those experiences, those memories, those moments, that is what, you know, tends to make a bit of a difference depending on the player. So that kind of got derailed a little bit, this conversation, but the whole point is, let me know where you rank Kevin Durant all time. So thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. I hope you enjoyed, and see you soon. Bye.